Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 4 of Introduction to Educational Philosophy. This is Melanie Eisen again, and this week our topic is 21st century skills. I understand that this week, it being Pesach, might be challenging for you to get the work done on time. For those of you that contacted me, thank you. And for those of you that might need some extra time, please don't hesitate to reach out to tell me. I completely understand, but I wanted to make it available to you should you find time over Chol Hamoed to get the work done and to read the readings and watch the videos. When we talk about 21st century skills, the four main ideas are communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. When you think about what kinds of opportunities are going to be available to our students as they move forward, they will need all of these skills in order to be successful. So building activities and building in these resources to support these four central ideas in 21st century skills is crucial and critical for us as teachers. I recently read a piece where somebody asked these very important questions. Are you learning as an organization and as an individual as fast as the world is changing? Are you as determined to stay interested as to be interesting? Remember, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. Those pieces speak clearly to me as an educator. When I think about the classrooms that I set up, when I think about the teaching that I share with colleagues such as yourselves, I have to remind myself, how am I moving forward? How am I matching what's going on in the world around me while holding fast to the traditions that set us apart as Jewish day schools? Remember, it's our students that we're trying to reach on a daily basis. Their worlds are expanding at a rate that we cannot control. And so bringing these skills into our daily activities, not even including necessarily technology, but just building these bases where we have to communicate with each other, where we have to allow students to be creative in how they interact with the material, where critical thinking is an important tool, and where collaboration is a daily event. I spoke recently to a teacher who teaches 10th grade math in a public school in New Orleans in Louisiana. And I asked her, how do you keep it relevant for your students? And she said, well, I am in the business of teaching them how to do algebra, but more than that, I'm in the business of teaching them how to problem solve, how to work together to take a common problem and figure out strategies on how to solve the problem. So that key should be in the back of your mind as you move forward this week. This was a piece that I bring up frequently when I present, the profile of a modern teacher. 21st century teachers are not experts in technology, but they are experts in habits of the mind. In a rapidly changing educational landscape, modern educators need to respond and be able to practice all of these pieces. I recently used this in a slideshow at a school, and I said to the teachers in total transparency, none of these pieces would have defined me as a teacher at the beginning of my career. Would I have allowed my students to teach each other? No. Would I have embraced change? No. Would I have invited mistakes into my life? No. Would I have chosen to be vulnerable? No. Would I have questioned everything? No, but these are skills, as I think back to those four essential characteristics of 21st century education, that I needed to build into my teaching portfolio, that needed to be with me on my shoulder as I was reaching out to my students. I tried to increase every year one of these pieces to my portfolio, asking my students why not, dreaming big, allowing my students to teach each other, running towards my areas of weakness, and reaching out to my professional learning network to find tools and support systems to help me so that I can, knowing that I might be uncomfortable in how I'm teaching, I can get there with the necessary support. Trying to move into my students' worlds, even if it's a foreign territory. And I'm not going to wait until I'm an expert to introduce something to my students. I want to learn with them, and I want to model that growth. All of these pieces should speak to you as a modern educator in a Jewish day school. So thinking back to what are the qualifications and what are the criteria for 21st century learning, when we think about creativity, what do we think about? What can we imagine the possibilities? Can we go from a policy of yes but to a policy of yes and? Can we be asking the questions, I wonder if? Pushing your students to reach out to bring different pieces of their prior knowledge into what they're learning, pushing them to be creative in how they express themselves, asking them to tell you what is the best modality for them to express themselves so that you are constantly in contact with what your students know, understand, and can do with the material that you're presenting to them. Creativity also comes with the idea that creativity within limits, creativity to the point where they are responsible for what they are learning, and yet we give them that creative notion to say, show me how you can best learn what you're learning, display what you're learning. Critical thinking, of course, we all know this, Bloom's taxonomy. To me, it never goes out of style. Pre-programming questions when you're teaching, even if it's frontally teaching or you're telling a story or you're engaging the students in some written work, varying the questions that you ask your students, no matter what your subject, will increase their level of critical thinking, will help them to think outside of the box, will help them then to ask you questions that would take you up and down Bloom's taxonomy. Being comfortable with these types of questions, asking them to then ask the questions on the content, always engaging with this taxonomy to make sure that you are constantly shifting the levels that you're trying to attract. And you never know which students are going to react to the synthesis type questions or the analysis type questions, to move them away for only asking those knowledge-based questions. Communication, of course, is an essential tool to any functioning society, any functioning classroom community. As you're building your community, make sure those lines of communication are open between you and your students, you and the parents. How are your students communicating with each other? How are they communicating with you? Are you online with the kids? Are you building their learning networks with them? Are you exposing them to the global society through the use of technology? Or are you encouraging, when they work in Chavruta, when they work in partners, are you encouraging them to work together and ask those questions of each other and of the text? Those same types of questions that we saw in Bloom's taxonomy should be an essential key to any partnership in any Chavruta study or any group activity. And of course, collaboration, working towards working together, teaching kids how to problem solve together, teaching them that working in a group doesn't mean one person does all the work, creating opportunities for kids to work together based on their ability, based on their prior knowledge, based on their interest, shifting the groupings, occasionally shifting them actually frequently, and making sure those groups are flexible in how you, and that the kids can be fluid in how they move in and out of groups. Kids have to learn how to work together. There's always the child, like teachers say to me, there's one child who doesn't want to work with others. He prefers to work independently. And I think we have to respect the fact that this is how they choose to learn and that it's their preferred way to work independently. But we need to support them in how to work collaboratively. We need to help to support them to learn how to work in a group. And establishing norms for groups is one of your primary focuses as you move forward in this work. So thinking of those four pieces, the critical thinking, the collaboration, the communication, and the creativity, what do these skills look like in your classroom today? What can you do to bring these skills into your classroom in a bigger way, in a way that will make your activities more meaningful to your students, in a way that will, when we walk into your classroom, we don't feel like we're walking into 1985, but really 2015. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're bringing more technology. It means that you're using those 21st century skills in how you teach and how you measure whether your students have learned. So this week you're going to read and watch about 21st century learning. You're going to reflect on your own teaching and share a lesson with me in which some of the techniques you read about this week might have been prominent. And most importantly, please share in the discuss section an aha moment you have had in the last 4 weeks that might have had an effect on what you're doing in your classroom. So as always, thank you so much for participating. Please reach out to me with any questions. Have a great week and a Chag Sameach.